We're on?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Netting, and I am here today at the Prima offices to show you guys how to do this little chipboard album. We have had, I'm going to turn this down right now. We have had a lot of questions on this little girl album, so I thought it would be a good time to address all those questions. First of all, what I want to tell you guys is just a little background. I was not a stamper or a scrapper prior to this. I have always worked with mixed media and paint. So, and I had a chipboard product out prior to Prima that was the girls, and everybody painted them. So when I designed this book, that was my intentions. It was going to be a book that people could have fun and paint. And then all of a sudden, I started getting all these questions. Where's the stamp? Where's the stamp? Well, there's no stamp. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you guys how to paint a cover as well as how to make a template to paper piece this little girl together and make it look like it was a stamp that you in fact used. So, and along with that, I did some of that work in the little Dollhouse book too. This is actually a painted cover, and then there's paper piecing over it. So I'll kind of show you how I did the furniture in this, which is the same way I did the doll. So what we're going to start with is I am taking the cover and I'm going to put a very light coat of gesso on each side. And I want it to be very light, and I want it to be fairly smooth on the front because I want all that embossed line, I want to be able to see it so I can paint. And painting her is really as simple as doing paint by number, which I'm sure you all did at some point when you were a kid. So as I glop this on, I want it pretty smooth. If you're seriously mixed media, grungy, all that, you can do it as uneven as you like. But for today's purposes, I want it pretty smooth. I already did the back side beforehand so it would be dry. And when you gesso chipboard, you always want to do both sides because it shrinks, and that will keep it from warping. Even a chipboard this thick will warp. If I was to do this book, I probably would not paint the back. I don't know. I would probably paper piece it together. So the back, I just slapped it on. I didn't smooth it out really well. So as this gesso dries, I'm going to show you guys how to do a little template of this girl. The picture that Carrie posted on the site, well, I forgot that book. I picked up the house book instead, so I'm sure you all can remember what the picture looks like. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to let that dry as we're working on the rest of it. So with the embossed side, the right side of that board, I'm going to take a piece of computer paper, just plain, ordinary computer paper, and I'm going to place it over the embossed girl. And again, just like you were in grade school, I'm going to make a template. I'm just gonna, do you remember guys doing the leaves like in first grade, second grade?
I used to do the coins.
You did coins, Frank? We did leaves, and you probably didn't have coins back then.
Yeah, I'm sure you did.
And a number 2 pencil or even a crayon, but something that is just really going to go over this quickly. And I don't know if you can see this very well. I'll hold it up when I'm done.
Well, that makes it so much easier.
And I am getting the edge of the book, and that's probably the hardest part, but it can be done. I've got the inside of her arm really well.
Julie, someone is asking a question. They're saying, why not use, it looks like a lot of trouble. Why just not use the stamp to cut out and paper piece?
Well, there isn't a stamp that came with it.
I see. Okay.
I didn't design it to do a stamp. I designed it to paint and to go mixed media crazy.
Cool.
So for those people that wanted a stamp, this is going to have you get your template. And it's super easy, and you're just going to cut that out. And
yeah, that only took a couple of seconds, actually, just not too
long. Here it is cut out. Super, super simple. I mean, you can't really get any easier except for if there was a stamp, which I'm sorry, but there's not. And I just traced her onto paper that I'm going to use for her body. On the board, when you paper piece, you're going to just take a piece of paper and cut it to size and glue it down. And you're going to want to make sure that you glue it all the way over and cover at least half of her legs so you don't have any gap in the book when you place her on the paper. So you're going to place her on the paper, and if you put this over any further, you would have a little gap there. So you just want to make sure that you're covering at least half of that other foot with your paper of choice. And you just simply glue that paper down once you trim it to size. With the little girl, I'm going to ink her edges really quick and cut her arm out. Okay, I'm going to grab my ink. Silence. Silence as she runs to the other side of the room. I'm going to just ink the edges where her skin is going to show. I'm not going to ink where the dress is because that's not going to show. And I'm going to just lightly draw an oval shape in here for her head. I've got a little spot here that I need to get. I forgot my markers. So what I'm going to do is just use ink and color in her hair. Oh, I have paint. Perfect paint. So normally I wouldn't use paint on paper, but we'll go ahead and do that today since I'm kind of in a bind. I'm doing all these little surprise projects today, and I can't believe I forgot my markers. We'll get my hair out of there. So I'm just going to paint her hair and color it in just like you would with a stamp. I'm following the line of her head, and I'm really going over it fairly dry because I don't want that paper to warp up on me. And I am using a golden acrylic. I'm going to do her bang.
These are fluid acrylics, right, Julie?
They are, and they're just
Slightly more
really easy to use, and the colors in the goldens are perfect for hair. I find their colors are more true than any other. For her hair, she's curly, so I'm just going to get some curls in here with a darker, I believe this is burnt sienna. And I'm going to take more of this yellow ochre and kind of get this to blend in. And this process really wouldn't be any different using a marker or a colored pencil. I always tell people, draw or paint your hair in the direction that you comb it, and it will always look fairly decent. I can only paint upside down to one point, and then I have to turn it right side up. So I'm just getting in the darker color for texture. I'm going to go back in with some light. The paper isn't warping too much, so that's good. I have this ugly pencil line that I need to kind of cover up because it's just a regular gray pencil and it's not very pretty. I would normally just do this in a brown colored pencil. Okay, so she's got hair. We're going to paint some shoes on her since we have the brown out. We'll just go ahead and use the same brown. And her little shoes, just like on almost every stamp, they're just a half moon shape. I am not going to put a strap on them because I'm working with a fat paintbrush, so it's kind of hard. So that's pretty simple and much easier, of course, if you have markers or colored pencils. Now we're going to take that pattern. We already cut her body out. Oops. So now we're going to cut out a cute little dress. And I think we will use from the Something Blue paper pack. I'm going to use the All Over Rose pattern. And I'm just going to take this little doll pattern. I did not draw a dress on the chipboard as far as her sleeves and her neckline because I thought you guys could be creative and design your own dress instead of being instead of doing what I have and you can't change it. So I'm going to draw a little neckline, and I think I'm going to just draw a little tiny cap sleeve. Just like that. Super simple. To make it even easier, you could even just do a sleeveless. And I'm going to cut a piece of paper just the size of the dress. And I am going to cut off her legs. And I'm going to cut a dress, trying to get as much of the peachy flower in as I can. And I'm just going to cut around the shape that some people would prefer to make a paper pattern and trace around it. Some people would prefer to put a temporary glue on the back of this. Not me. I just eyeball it and cut because I've done it so much. I'm used to it. Off with her head. Somebody asked if they can use the stencils for this. Probably not. I think it would be extremely hard to get it to line up with the edge. I don't think it would work at all. The stencils are probably a totally different size. And voila, we have a dress. And I'm going to, well, that was dumb. I picked a totally different pattern than what I had glued down on the book, but that's okay. I'm going to add a ruffle to the bottom of my dress just for some added interest. And I'm placing the dress onto a piece of paper. I'm going to cut about 1/4 of an inch above that hemline. And I'm going to cut a little bit below. And then I'm going to take my handy dandy inker and I'm going to ink all the edges. I did a little cutting boo-boo there, but once it's glued down, no one will ever know. And get the bottom of that little, it's not really a ruffle, it's a little band. And I'm going to glue that down.
So, Julie,
Yes.
there's a question. They're asking if your stencil would work for this.
No, we talked about it. It
Okay.
more than likely would not work.
Okay, so it wouldn't work.
Yeah. It's probably not the right size. It is definitely not the same shape.
Okay.
So we're going to just glue that little band. Just so it adds a little bit of interest. And then I'm going to place her on the book and just make sure, yep, everything's in the right place. I still have a little piece that I don't care for here, so I don't know why I'm having a hard time nudging that out. So now I want to get the, I always ink the edges of their skin, and most of you know that. It just adds a little bit of color and it makes her pop out. Now I'm just going to glue her dress on her. Glad I have glue that has a little give because I'm bumping all around today. just going to trim because I cut that without making a pattern first. There's a little bit of excess, which on the inside doesn't matter. Your inside can be shaped any way you want because it's going to get glued down. It's this outside that you're concerned about. So she would just get glued down. All that, there's no gap between the chipboard and the paper, and that book cover would then be ready to embellish. Simple as that. For the Dollhouse book, that's how I got the roof line. I just took a piece of paper, went over with a pencil, and cut out a pattern so I could get that scalloped edge onto a piece of contrasting paper, and that way I didn't have to paint the edge of that roof, and that was really simple. For the upholstered furniture pieces, I kind of did the same thing. I'm looking for the little sofa. This thing's been put through the ringer. The little sofa, I did the same thing. I made a template so I could see the arms and I could see the cushions. I chose to make the cushions out of a different fabric, so it's kind of a collage-y sofa. And then I just cut a little square out of contrasting paper for a throw pillow. And that adds a little bit of interest to that sofa, and painting an upholstered piece might be a little bit difficult, even for me. The other furniture pieces, I painted with crackle paint. I have painted it with a solid paint and put the drawers in a pattern paper, which is really pretty. So it's just a matter of making a template out of those furniture pieces, and it just makes it really, really easy. So that is that paper piecing. Any questions? Because it's not as hard as it may seem.
That's really easy.
And the reason I say it's not as hard as it seems is because I learned that when I was in the 2nd grade, and I just remembered it. Anyway, so we have our chipboard cover, which is dry, and I am going to, I use all my packaging for my paint palettes, and they come out really pretty after a while. I'm going to squirt some cream paint, and I'm going to try to decide, what do I want to do first, the girl or the book cover? I know I did the book cover before, so maybe I should just go with what I've done. Do you see the painted ones sitting around?
Painted one.
The one that I painted, and I already showed them. There's too much stuff here.
Isn't that the one you painted?
No, the finished one.
Oh, this one?
I don't see it.
This?
Oh, the finished. It's this, only it's finished.
Oh.
I know, it was there. Oh well. I'm going to squirt some paint colors down here. And again, I'm using a golden paint because they're so pretty.
Let's see.
It's right here. Things just walk away. Get that out of the way. We'll get all this stuff out of the way so it's fresh. I think Frank hides things on here.
No, I don't.
I always go crazy and I can't find anything. And I think he's doing it. Okay. So what we're going to do is take And I like, I know a lot of people say use whatever brush you want, but I don't like cheap brushes. I don't think they work well. So I'm going to tell you, don't use whatever brush you want. Pick up a nice paintbrush. These are a package made by Ranger Claudine Helmuth, and they're really, really a nice paintbrush. You don't have to spend $10 on a paintbrush, but don't buy the little kid red plastic handled paintbrushes where you get 12 for $2.99. I guarantee you they will not work. I'm taking a cream paint and I'm just going around the girl. And I'm going to go ahead and cover the book in that cream. We can go inside the lines a little bit. It's not going to matter because we're going to paint her. For this part, I would recommend even a wider paintbrush. But I didn't bring a wider one. That gesso makes your paint go on really, really smooth. I'm going to use this one. Now we'll speed things up. And put it on in a fairly smooth fashion. Get it out of the holes. You don't want. Let's heat this a little bit. You asked me if I wanted a heat gun, and I said no. Well, I changed my mind. Thanks. So we'll just dry this a little bit. I'm not using stamps, Jeanette. I'm using them over there today, but not for this. Okay, so that is a little bit dry. I mean, it's a lot dry. And I'm going to take, I put a teal, a mustard, and a magenta down. And these are very true and very bold colors. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start, I have kind of a wet brush, as you can see, because I don't want really bold. I want this to be a little subtle. So there's some yellow. And this is not a bright sunshiny yellow. I'm going to take a little bit of teal. And my yellow is not dry, and I'm okay with that. And I'm just doing this as haphazardly as I can to show you that you don't need to be afraid. There's a glob of yellow that I don't really like right here. I'm going to go back in with some of this cream to mute it out. Again, my brush is, I would say damp. I wouldn't say it's wet. But that water is allowing these colors to blend.
Yes, these are acrylic paints.
These are golden. They're fluid acrylic. Wherever I have a sharp line, I'm going to just kind of spray some water in there and get that sharp line out. Now I'm going to take, this is always a scary color because it's very bold and you never know what it's going to do, but that's what mixed media is all about. Just not knowing what's going to happen.
I love that.
And I'm just kind of laying it wherever. I'm going to let this dry up a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to get mud. And we don't want mud. Once it's dry, I'm going to go over it with a little bit more cream. Just to make it a little more subtle. Because we're going to pop more color on with our Color Bloom sprays. And this I want to be pretty thinned out with water, as you can see. And we can even take a baby wipe or a paper towel and wipe some of that color off. As that dries, I'm going to take one of my favorite colors of paint ever is this Claudine Helmuth. It's called Sable Brown, and it's just a really rich, rich, rich taupey color. It's not chocolatey. It's not a pinky brown. It's just a really rich color that you would, I don't know, it's just really, really pretty. That's all I can say. It's really pretty. I'm going to take a diamond stencil and I am going to go through randomly, not a ton, but just in certain spots with this paint. You never know what you're going to get. I got it a little thick, but that's okay because you know what? It's mixed media and you can always fix it. I'm really weird about cleaning paint off my stencils. It's just what I do. So we'll let this dry. The Claudine Helmuth paint, it takes a while to dry. I don't know why. And I almost always have to use a heat gun. I think the mix is just so thick and rich, it just takes a while. You can see how bold this is, but this Dollhouse book, I use the exact same method. And it turns out really subtle in the end. Okay, I think that's dry enough. I'm going to take some white paint. It's a new paint. Frank, can you get that off?
Yes.
I'm going to go in with a bit more of the cream to tone down some of this brown. And I may throw in more color. I start mumbling to myself when I'm doing this. I probably do it when I'm alone too. I want a little more teal in here. Eee. Sometimes I'll use a mister just to get a little more water down without having to do my brush and all that. White paint, I use a cream most of the time because a cream has a very soft, vintagey type feel to it. Then sometimes I need to go in and put a little white over things to make it, to make things pop. Usually I'll do that with a piece of bubble wrap, which I didn't bring, which is too bad. I want a little more of this yellow in here. Let that dry, and then I'm going to do, whoa. This is a really thin white paint. Oops. That's really thin. Usually that paint isn't that thin. Usually the no-name brands are really thin. You need a fairly dry brush when you're stenciling. I just saw this sitting here, so I'm going to see how it works. And I'm almost afraid of this white, but we're going to go ahead. I'm afraid because it's so thin. And I'm just putting some white in here to brighten things up. I'm going to lift that up. Just a simple floral stencil. It has a lot of open space for that white to peek through. Very subtle. Shoot. I can't even blame Frank for that. Okay, we're just gonna let that brush go because
Did it fall apart?
No, I dunked it in the yellow by mistake. So, and that happens. So just a little bit of white in there. And it's starting to get subtle, which is what we want. We'll let that dry up a little bit, and then we're gonna throw on some color bloom sprays, which are so much fun. So let's take, well, let's make sure this thinned out white is really I've got some the peony, which is probably one of my favorite colors here. A soft teal and glistening waves. So I'm not sure which of these two I'm going to use. I think I'm going to use the soft teal since we kind of went with the teal. And I'm going to take this flower stencil and I'm just going to, now where's that baby wipe? Thanks, Frank. That's why I have Frank around. I actually put a little too much on there for my liking, but that's okay. We'll just dab on it. It's super, super pretty. The color sprays, I know you guys have seen a ton of videos on them, but they really spray nicely. Now the peony, I'm going to take through a reverse chicken wire, which is just a very small, and I'm just there, just a tiny bit. That's all I want. It's just a smidge.
Oh, don't worry, Delina. Julie will clean the mat before she leaves.
Why does Delana think that you don't?
She said, get some wipes for that mat. I'm like, yeah, Julie will have some.
Is that Delana Scott? Is that Miss Scott?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm super neat, actually.
It's okay.
Here,
It's okay.
Delana.
It's okay.
Now, I don't want all these blobs, so I'm going to blot some of this up. I want a drier one, though. Just pick some of that up. I actually like it, but I need to get on with her little body really quick. So we're going to do a little quickie on her body. That didn't sound good at all.
I didn't say anything.
Not at all.
I didn't catch it till she said it didn't sound right.
I had flesh-colored paint at home, and I forgot to pop it in. So here's a little bit of pink. And with that cream, it should make a pretty decent skin color. So let's see what happens. I'm going to just kind of blend it. And we can even take a little bit of the brown. A little more pink. I only had 50 million projects to bring here today, and I forgot a little bit of everything because I didn't feel like getting it all together yesterday. I felt like being lazy. Not a good plan. So I've got a fleshy tone here, and I can see all my embossed lines. So what I'm going to do is start painting her skin. And I'm not kidding, this is like paint by number. And her skin gets painted first. And then we're going to do her hair. Get a little water over here for me, so. If you want to get into the whole shading thing, you can. I typically don't get into that with the skin so much because it's such a small area. We're going to need a couple coats to get through that color mist, the blue. I'm kind of remembering her neckline, so I'm just following her. All those embossed lines. I have done this book where I've painted her and I've cut the dress out of paper. And I've done this book where I have painted her entirely. And I like both ways. Frank's so quiet today.
I'm observing.
He's not even being like smart alecky or.
I don't want to take over your show, Julie.
He's just being so good.
Mm-hmm. I'm reading. They're talking about glass mats.
Glass mats.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
I don't know.
Are they saying they're good?
Something about thirsty. I don't know what that means.
What? What words are they using?
I don't know. They're
How
being
come-
naughty.
They're always like smarter than we are.
Yeah, they are.
You ever notice that?
Mm-hmm.
Trish, line 3, Trish, line 3.
Trish, line 3.
Trish, line 3.
Don't they know you guys are lying?
Mm. So you want to make sure that this side is dry so you can go over it with the skin color and all that, right?
Yeah,
Do
it's
you have a volume on that phone to cut it all the way down?
it's whoa. I went right into that cream color. It's pretty dry. By the time you're finishing with her head and everything, this is all going to be pretty much dry.
Mm.
It's not anything that you have to worry about. Got a lot of pink on my brush, which I don't like. This pink is drying up a little bit. So we'll just go over this. So it's now if I wanted to go in and start doing some shading, I could just, to make it very simple, just go along one side of her a little bit, just slightly darker.
These are acrylic paints. Chender, I don't know if that's what your username is, but she's using Studio Paints by Claudine Helmuth, and then she's using fluid acrylic by Golden.
And you can use any craft paint really in the craft store if you want ready mixed
Mm-hmm.
colors. We'll do her hair because we already have paint out for her hair. Hair, whenever I paint hair, I only use Golden paints. There hasn't been another brand that I like the feel of or I like the colors. And the texture of the Goldens are very fluid, but they give you the coverage. And the pigment in a more expensive paint like this is more true to color than what you would get in, you know, your paints at the craft store for a couple dollars a bottle, which are
Mhm.
fine for some things. So I am you really can't find that other piece of that really bugs me because it was perfect. It came out perfect.
Yeah, I don't see it. Might have gotten lost.
You know how things just come out perfect sometimes?
Yes, I know.
And sometimes they don't. Once she is pretty much covered, I'm going to go in with that reddish brown and I'm going to
Add some highlights.
Add some highlights, some lowlights, all that stuff. And I'm not concerned with this looking terrific at this point. Frank's so popular, his phone keeps buzzing.
I'm not.
And then I'm going to go back in with the yellow. I do classes where we do paint hair, and people are always surprised at how easy it is. And we paint hair from scratch in my classes. There's no stamp. There's no template. There is just an oval head. And they are surprised that when you just go back and forth with 2 to 3 colors, how easy you can get. You could even go in with a metallic paint. I typically like to do that because then it adds a little bit of shimmer and it's really fun.
Mm.
So for her dress, because we have time, we need a spot that isn't used. I have no idea. It's time to throw that away because I have no idea what paint on there is wet or dry. So
They all look kind of glossy.
we'll go ahead and get a light teal.
So she makes some of the cream.
Cream and the
some of the
teal. And when you mix with cream paint, you're going to get kind of a more vintage toned down look than if you were to paint or mix it with white. White's going to give you a brighter. And because our flowers and everything has such a vintage feel to it, I tend to like my colors to be a little more in that tone. My eyes are going crazy on me right now. I have a cold. And
Mm.
I'm all like boogery everywhere.
Oh no.
How's
So should I
that
be this
for-
close?
Well, I haven't sneezed yet.
So we're good.
I'm actually making her with little short sleeves because I don't want to do the whole thing. So we're just getting I would paint her shoes too, but I'm not going to bore you with that. We already painted some shoes today. And like I said, you can go in and cut out a dress from paper if you wanted, just to make it super mixy media.
Mm.
So I've got pretty much a full coverage going on her now on her little dress. So I am going to take a little bit more teal. Go down her left side, which is where I didn't shade her skin too much, but I couldn't get enough paint. Just to get a little shading in there. I'm gonna do her skirt kind of gathery. So I'm just putting lines in here. And this is where you just start picking up different colors on your brush with just the cream and the teal And you can see how simple it is to get some shading. And you can actually maybe get a little bit more of the straight cream just to add some light down the center of some of these gathers. Put some shoes on this girl. Get some Prima flowers. Put some flowers and ribbons. On the one that I showed you before that ran away,
Oh, I can't believe it. This is-
I had cut a little pocket out of paper and put it on her. And it was really pretty because it just added that little touch of paper. And on the inside, then when you start doing your whole book, you can just put paper on the back of this. And that was another thing that Carrie had a question on, was someone had asked her how you do the book as far as the scallop pieces. And well, I just happen to have this pad on me. I don't have the other one, got lost too. With this, and this is exactly 6 inches wide. So when you're using 12 by 12 paper, you can actually just use your hello. You can just cut it in half, and that way you're not wasting a lot of paper. But you're just basically going to trace around the book, and then you're going to cut it out and cut it really on the inside of those lines so you don't have a lot of excess. And I cut even a little beyond the inside because I'd rather have a little bit of brown showing than excess paper hanging out. And with that brown showing, I will take my distressor tool sometimes and I will just kind of sand the paper into the board, and then I'll run my ink edger through it, and it will look really pretty on the edges. And then I punch the hole because that's going to be covered before I go to the back side and do it all over again. And that was a question that Carrie had, so I thought I would address that. And I think I addressed all the other questions. Here's our little girl painted. And I actually would have shaded her skin in a little more. But it is pretty much like painting by number. And it's just fun to get in there and smush things around, especially for people that are diehard stampers that are kind of afraid of paint, afraid of sprays. Get in there, get messy, and have fun.
That was super
Right?
fun, yeah.
So, any other questions out there? No.
Looks awesome.
Okay. There were some things that Carrie wanted me to tell you guys before we left, and that is the next show, which is next, I don't know when it is, April 10th, whenever that is.
It's Thursday.
Thursday night at 6:30 Pacific time. They're doing a blind box challenge. I have no idea what that is.
Sounds scary.
Carrie, Lamore, and Jamie. It does sound funny, scary, but they're doing that live from Canada, so that should be fun. I bet they're going to be like all giggles. Art Venture in Canada is going on this weekend. There's still time to sign up for the daytime sessions on Saturday or Sunday, April 12th and 13th. If anyone's interested, email Denny at Prima Marketing Inc. And he'll take care of that for you. And I think that's it. Thanks, you guys,
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
and have a great day.
All right.
Bye.